Yes. Can you see that thing? Only in Texas. How cool is that? We've got a fantastic video today. I've only seen that in a museum. Wow. So I am here with Charles Cook, and he is doing something really special for the aviation world. He's created a streaming platform called Arrowverse. They're one of the primary sponsors of Sun and Fun this year, if I understand that correctly. And he's graciously invited us out to his house to maybe check out a few things we got lying around here. And just my first glimpse, I haven't been in there yet, but my first glimpse is some pretty cool stuff. So thanks for inviting us out. Appreciate that.
I'm really happy you came out.
Yeah, well, walk me around. First off, we just got to start off by saying the dude lives on a private runway or airport, I guess. There's a runway right there, 3,000 feet, and there's some of the coolest planes in the hangars over there. We'll get to that stuff, but let's just check out.
Let's take a look. I've always been a little bit of a trader my whole life, and never really target anything, just when the timing's right, price point's right, doesn't matter. I kind of have a little bit of an informed knowledge on it, and look at me now. So
that's right. Yeah.
Right.
Some Volkswagen thing, and this is beautiful. This is clean. Wow.
Well, I grew up in one of these. That's what we had when I was a kid. And my dad drove us around in that, and every time I get in it, I'm 10, 11, 12 years old again, so it works on a couple levels.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I got two more of them over there.
Oh yeah, there's a white one there.
Yeah.
See, this is the hangar that Jimmy's World needs to fit all my stuff.
Yeah,
So the car is the Cadillac, and you're in Texas. You got the big bullhorn on the front there. 64?
You are correct.
Yeah.
64. This was my old neighbor's car, and the story on this is I drove by, I didn't know they had it, and she was widowed, and one day this car sitting in her driveway with a for sale sign. They bought it new in Oklahoma City.
Oh my goodness.
And the first time I saw it, I went, wow, what a whale. And the more I drove by it, the more I kept going, man, that's a good looking car. And so long story short, I bought this for $4,500 just like it sits. And,
wow.
And
has this car ever been restored?
No. And so I drive this down the stockyards, eat a steak, come back, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Man. Yeah. Never. How many miles are on it?
Can't remember. I think around 30, 40,000. And they just kept it. Like I said, I lived by them for 5 years and never knew they had it. And then one day it was out in the driveway, and I went, I got it. So I'm second owner of this beautiful car.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we got airplanes and
Yeah.
Volkswagens, air-cooled, some more air-cooled stuff.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my parents got into a tax bind on paying more taxes than they should, and the accountant told them, you need to go buy something. Well, they went and bought this car and then never drove it.
Those are the problems in life you want.
Yeah.
That's the problem you
Right.
want. Your accountant calls you and says, go buy something.
Right.
And then you choose this.
Yeah.
So what year is this one?
That is an 80.
1980. So one of the last.
Very rare car. They only brought 200 of these into the country. It's a 911 SCW.
What's the W?
The W is a German word. Weimarack? Weissach. It's a Weissach.
Okay.
And that was a special edition car. The first one I think they did.
Wow. Yeah, just gorgeous. And it's got the manual inside of it, which is correct the way it should be. Which engine's in this one?
It's the little air-cooled, I don't know.
3.4 or something like that?
Something
Is
like
that what
that. And that car has 3,000 miles on it.
That's why you have hangars and land out in Texas, so you can just build more hangars.
Well,
what is this?
and you kind of hit the key thing. The only way you can do this properly And unintentionally, I discovered this is to have a hangar, because you pull the stuff in out of the elements and it holds. So that's the trick to having too much.
That's right. That's right. So what's this in the plastic here?
This is the WACO CRG. There were only 2 of these made, and they were made for the Ford Air Reliability Tour. And WACO had won it the 2 prior years, and they went, we think we can win it the 3rd year. We're going to build a special airplane. Well, it had to be a commercial airplane. So this is actually a certified airplane, unlike a lot of racing planes.
Oh, wow.
And they special built this thing to, it's got a big gear, pretty big engine, and it has a special wing on it, right? Well, Ford, seeing what they did, changed the rules so that only, because it was the Ford Air Reliability Tour, and it was really built to showcase Ford tri-motors, to show the world, hey, aviation has come and it's a capable thing. Well, Ford saw what WACO was doing and changed the rules where only Ford tri-motor could win the race.
Naturally.
Well, who was cheating more? Them building it, right? In other words, they built two of an airplane and said, yeah, it's a commercial airplane to win the race. And Ford said, yeah, well, we can change the rules. So it was just a matter of who cheated first.
Yay, NASCAR rules, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know he cheated because he won and I cheated.
Right. Right. So I saw this airplane as a kid. I had a set of books that I have in this office. And when I was a kid, I was an aviation fiend also. And I would look and I would go, that is one of the most gorgeous airplanes, because it's a big, tall gear. And I always wanted to see the airplane. I knew one was still around. Well, a family had it for 50 years. And I was going, man, I'll be lucky just to see it one time, you know, just to get to go see this thing. And I was looking on Barnstormers one day and I go, are you kidding me?
This was on Barnstormers?
And so I just call and make a deal right then. And long story short, the airplane hadn't really been taken care of in 50 years, and it was in some disrepair. So we are in the final stages of restoring this airplane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you already ran it up or anything yet?
No.
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 Okay, keep me posted.
I will.
When that happens, that is going to be one epic day.
It will. It actually will be. We're real excited about it, and we're very close. And we'll see the rest of it over in the other hangar. I'll show you what's going on. So.
Okay. And so what engine is on this?
Well, that is a Wright 760, and I'm not an expert on Wright engines, although I have two of them. But it's an oddity. The other airplane we'll look at has a Wright 760 on it, which is 225 horsepower, and it's a front exhaust on it.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, well, that was made a bunch of them. That was the follow-on to what Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic with. You know, Wright had the reputation of a very reliable engine. Well, this is a Wright 760 also, but it's a different dash number, and it's geared. There's a gearbox in the front of it, and it's a rear exhaust and 350 horsepower. So,
wow.
So, yeah.
Supercharged, I imagine?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so dimensionally, physically, they're dimensionally the same. In other words, if it'll take the little 225 horse, that engine will fit on it. It's dimensionally the same engine, yet wildly different, even though they're the same initial model number, 760.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It is.
Huh. Wow, okay. We got, yes, there's more.
There's only 30 more to go.
Yeah, I'm here for the ride.
All right.
This is fantastic.
Well, we're going to hit probably two of the more interesting airplanes I have. This is a, what is his name? Doug Champlin built Great Lakes. So this was a 30s airplane that was put back into production in the 70s, and that's what this is. And I'll show you a picture over here in a minute. My grandfather was an early aviator. My father was an aviator, and I grew up around airplanes, and man, all I wanted was an airplane. Well, my dad gave me a car. I drove it 2 times. I drove it one time. I made a phone call out of an ad on Trade a Plane. I was 16 years old, and I traded the car for this airplane. And
You didn't tell the
Fantastic.
car. You didn't say the kind of car.
yeah, 66 Corvette.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got mixed emotions about that right now.
Well, I do when I look at it on paper. When I look at it right here, the equation worked greatly in my favor because I wouldn't trade my aviation life for a driving life, and I'm just telling you.
100%.
So when I was 16, I traded for this airplane.
This exact one.
This one.
Oh, so you've had this one for a minute.
Hold your heart. 42 years. Yeah, I've had that airplane.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I only had 20 hours in a power plane at the time, which I was a sailplane pilot at 14, so I had 200 hours in sailplanes, but I had just gotten into an Aeronca Champ with my instructor. So we traded for this in the airport right behind my high school. There was a grass strip like this one the guy flies in. I drove the Corvette out there, we traded, and I go, okay, I'll drive your car back to our airport and you fly the airplane. And he goes, I'm not flying it, you can fly it. So no joke. Now I'd flown a lot of single seat sailplanes, and I had soloed 2-seaters also. So I had flown probably soloed in 8 different airframes by the time I got to this. But I only had 20 hours in a power plane, and I climbed in that thing and flew off with no instruction.
There you go, just some right rudders and pull back and go.
Yeah. So this has been in my life, my whole life, and really, in a true statement, my life never progressed beyond this. This became the fascination that led me into that airplane and the other biplanes. It all stemmed off this airplane.
Yeah, it makes sense. Gorgeous, and there's nothing better than an open cockpit
No.
biplane out.
No,
I mean, that's the best.
And this couldn't have been a better choice. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know how to make a good choice. I just happened to do this. But it's a 30s airframe with a modern engine on it. And so I wasn't trying to hunt up antique parts to keep a radial engine going. So it really worked out well.
What engine is it?
IO 360.
Oh, that's the Chevy 350 of engines.
Yep.
Wow, okay.
So everything just dropped into place accidentally. So that is still the same engine I traded for. It's been that good of an engine.
Wow.
Yep.
What's it, better lucky than good anytime?
Right. Right.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So how many hours do you have in this plane now?
Oh, I would imagine 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I imagine you are intimately familiar with every rivet, nut, and bolt on this thing.
I can get in that airplane. And I am more comfortable than driving the car I have. It just fits. I know I have a, how do we want to say it, kind of a blind raccoon memory of the airplane. I can go like this and do anything you can think of in it. And flying wise, my brain almost turns off. It's so easy for me in this airplane.
Oh, that is fantastic, yeah.
Which I think happens when when you learn something 16 years old, you get it. My age now, you know, it's a little harder to pick it up as quick. And this thing, like I said, haven't had it so long, it just fits like a glove.
Wow, fantastic,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
so much. And we're only on the front half of the first building. So yeah, keep going. This
nothing special here. Bought this off of this airport.
straight tail Cessna 180, man. Come on.
And it is, you want to know what model it is?
Way 55? 53.
That is a 180. There's not even an A on it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. See, now we're talking.
Right. So,
What in the world is that red thing right there?
very interesting story here. That is, yeah, That is the first production Cessna.
What?
Yep. So Cessna made some 1s and 2s and prototypes, but when they finally put an airplane into production, this was it. And this is a Cessna AW. And as you notice, this is, if you know your radial engines, this is a little 125 horsepower Warner engine. And my friend had this airplane and just loved it, and I mean that. And he remarried and had to move, and the airplane's really not together yet. The wings just pinned on it, and he had not got the airplane together. And he calls me and goes, "Charles, I can't take the airplane up to where I'm at, and I need to sell it." And I said, "Well, I'm kind of airplane heavy right now. I don't need it." And he goes, "Man, I need you to buy it." And I go, "What is going on?" And he goes, "Oh, I've got it sold." And he goes, "This engine is a very rare engine. And what they do is they put them on World War I fighter replicas. And if they take this engine off this airplane, it'll never be in one piece again." And I go, "Well, okay." So I saved an airplane is all I did here. That's what I accomplished. But this is, like I said, this first Cessna that was put in production. It's an AW, and if you'll look at it, I wish we had it in the other hangar where we could put it next to the Curtiss Robin I have, because dimensionally they're the same. You'll see this is a very svelte Greyhound-esque airplane, 125 horsepower, carries 4 people, but like a Mooney, it does it at an expense, and that expense is small cabin. In other words, everything's tweaked to just enough. And when we go over and look at the Robin, you'll see the difference, because again, dimensionally the same, look at the difference. And one thing you'll notice, the only struts on this airplane are on the horizontal stab and the gear.
Oh, they don't have the wing strut on it?
No. Well, this is...
So a cantilever?
Yeah, this is the direct predecessor to a Cessna 195.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because
Right.
the radial, the same.
Right.
So what year is this airplane?
If I am not mistaken, that is a, I think it's a 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the serial number wise, do you recall how many they made of this model, and where is this one at in that?
I don't recall. This is right in the middle of it, though. I did look up. This is a mid build.
Okay, mid-production.
Yep.
The very first Cessna produced airplane.
Well, you want to see the exciting part? Let's walk around the other side.
Okay. With the Cessna sign in the back, of course.
Yeah. So here's the exciting part. That is how you get in. In other words, you...
Holy moly.
Yeah, go ahead and look at that. It's like I said, it's
Good
kinda
night.
Mooney-esque.
Now we know why they had this up here. Oh yeah, I guess. Oh, and seeing over it. Oh, that is Charles Lindbergh like.
Yep.
Wow. So 1930. If you want to see how a airplane designed and built in 1930, what year did Lindbergh do the Atlantic?
27.
Yeah, so this would have been the
Right.
same era of
Yep.
that. Wow.
And if you notice, the passengers have their own door, and the spar is right ahead of them, because the spar is the headrest for the pilot.
Oh yeah. This right here, the wing spar. So this up here is the wing spar, and it's the headrest where the pilot would sit. Oh my goodness. Could I dare ask, can I climb
Absolutely, man.
up? All right, I'll move that.
And one of the seats isn't pinned. Don't worry about it. It's just the bolt's not in it.
All right, so any specific, you just kind of slide up in here.
I
and-
wished I could tell you.
Holy moly. Oh, you gotta twist, turn. This is one of the strangest experiences. Man, you're not kidding about cramped. You gotta only be about 5 foot tall to fit in this thing.
Yep.
But your torso has to still be a 6 foot tall torso.
Yeah.
Use your knees for the rudder pedals.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
This would be a trip and a half to fly.
Now this airplane, not this one, well actually this was an air racer too. This was in some air races. And this actually won Cessna, this model of airplane won Cessna several cross-country races. So even with this little engine, very efficient airplane.
Wow. Oh yeah. Yep. This is the headrest. This is so weird. The wing is right there. You can look inside the wing. All right, now let's see if I can climb out here without dying. Right there, I think. Oh, uh-oh, leg is stuck. Hold on, I gotta try that again. Switch. Nope. Strike one. Where is that step at? There it is.
Wherever you can get your foot.
I know, and now I didn't realize somehow or another you have to figure out how to go. Okay.
See,
If you're in, you can cross the Atlantic.
Yeah, because you're not getting back out of this thing. Oh, there we go. Made it. That's weird because the thing is there, and my knee is, I couldn't get my foot up over this without my knee hitting that. And
well, like I said, when I show people
You're gonna
that, they
have to
go,
practice
oh yeah, it's a small door. And it's like, no, just hop in.
yeah, that's different. It's like climbing up a hatch of a boat or under your house or something like that.
Yeah, it's a different thing, isn't it? Let me just send this.
Now we have a Burt Rutan built Quickie 2.
This was on the cover of Sport Aviation several times back in the 80s. And this is actually a friend of mine, and he bought this somehow without the engine. And he goes, can I store an airplane in your hangar? And I go, sure. And he brings that out, and I go, well, that is not going to take off on a grass runway, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I know that airplane, and that was quite a machine in its day. So it's gorgeously made, and I'm very interested in it. And it's the oddity on the airport, because this airport's more what you just got into than glass. But to have a glass airplane on the airport, this was an award-winning airplane. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So.
Sam's Club. Is that the Sam's Club that I'm thinking of?
No,
Sam's Club?
No.
Okay.
That was an infamous gambling parlor in Fort Worth. And
Drink Dr. Pepper.
yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. And I bought the building, and they had put a facade on the front of the building. And when we refurbished the building, we pulled the facade off, and there it was.
Oh my goodness.
And I went, we're not going to destroy that. We're bringing it, and I rebuilt it in the hangar.
And I noticed the pool in Domino's.
Yeah, with no I in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently spelling was not a...
You know what? Hey, that's fine. Bring your friends, bring your
Right.
family, and your money.
Right. And then I told you about the Great Lakes. This is another airplane with it's kind of crammed in here right now. So this is the second airplane I've flown the most in my life, and we're in the process of putting the third engine on it right now. When I was 7 years old, we drove out to a farm out by Keller, Texas, and my dad bought that airplane. And
This one.
This one. And we flew it to our farm and landed in it. And we have owned that airplane since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And
That's special.
it is. And so the other oddity of that is when I got old enough to fly, it was stored in Ranger, Texas, which is 100 miles from here. And you would think that would be the natural to learn in and get your teeth into. And I traded for that, and I didn't touch this for another 50 hours. And
Wow.
yeah, is that crazy? So anyway, another long-term airplane I've had.
That's fantastic.
show you?
Love, so 3 generations of aviation love and passion.
Let me show you if I can. My friend Willie works for me, and he's trying to help me, there it is, trying to help me organize my hangar. And that's why it's a mess. But that is my grandfather. And he is in a very famous old airplane called the Little Looper. And that was Lincoln Beechey's airplane. That was the first airplane to do a loop. And what happened is Lincoln Beechey got killed in a monoplane, third time he flew it. And my grandfather had learned to fly at the Glenn Curtis School of Aviation.
Oh my Lord.
And when that accident occurred in the monoplane, his parents, he's 16 in that photo, his parents bought that airplane out of the estate for him. And he was an exhibition pilot. So, yeah, so that was where the real roots of aviation came into this family.
Wow. And approximately what year was this photo taken?
If I'm not mistaken, that's 1911.
Jeez.
Yeah. There's a weird story with that engine also. So, engines were harder to get than airplanes back then, right? In other words, a good, reliable engine. So when Lincoln Beechey had the monoplane built, it used the same engine that biplane used. So they would just switch the engine onto the two airframes. Well, he crashed in San Diego Bay doing an exhibition. And they dredged the airplane out and the engine. Well, the engine actually went to the little biplane also. But the engine was the more desirable part. So, Catherine Stinson, if you've ever heard of Stinson airplanes, bought the engine, and my grandfather had to go find another Lerone rotary to put on this airplane. And here's again just how intertwined early aviation is. So she took Lincoln Beechey's Lerone rotary to Matt Laird of Laird Racing Planes, and the first airplane he built was off the Lerone rotary from Lincoln Beechey's airplane. So you had the start of the Laird Aviation Company. Catherine Stinson, who was the flyer in that family, had the engine, and then my grandfather ended up with the airplane.
Gosh.
Yep.
That is just,
Yep.
when we say aviation's a small world, we're not kidding.
Right.
It's like everybody knows everybody, and we're all trying to help, and it's all with the center of aviation and just what it does. Man, that is, that's neat. That is absolutely fascinating.
And he ended up, just to finish that story real quick, he ended up had a Buick Aviation division. So Buick built aviation components, fuel pumps, valves, whatever, and eventually started building license-built Pratt & Whitney engines, and they were going on to the B-24s. So as head of that, he moved down here when the B-24 production line was in Fort Worth to handle all the Buick parts that went on those, and that's how the family ended up in Fort Worth. But this was in Tennessee right here.
Oh wow! So is that where he was from at that time? Was Tennessee area somewhere?
Yep.
Wow.
Chattanooga.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Chattanooga. Man, that is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow. Wowie.
I think that's the last Greater Southwest International Airport sign left. And it's lost in history. But Greater Southwest was actually the Fort Worth airport that paired Love Field, okay? And very controversial. So Dallas and Fort Worth came together and said, let's build one airport, which is now called DFW Airport. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you shut down Greater Southwest and we'll shut down Love Field. Great.
Love Field. I landed in Love Field.
Yeah. Well, Fort Worth destroyed their airport and Dallas reneged and still has Love Field. So DFW Airport, the west side of it, is actually built on Greater Southwest International, which was the Fort Worth Airport.
Wow.
Yep. And that happened when I was a kid. I remember when my dad flew for Texas International, and one afternoon they called the pilots out there and flew the Convairs off of Greater Southwest over to DFW, and that day is when one shut down and the other opened. So I remember that when I was 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, wow.
Because they came and flew the airplane over our farm when they did it. They buzzed the farm.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Neat.
So I'll tell you one other interesting story here real quick. That hangar, the original Fort Rucker was in Mineral Wells, Texas. That was where all the Army helicopter training was. When I came out here, I go, I don't have the money just yet. So while I don't have the money, I'll look around, maybe find a hangar someone needs moved off a piece of property. So I start looking, and my friend calls me and he goes, hey, aren't you looking for some old hangars? And I go, well, yeah, but you know, I don't want bad ones. And he goes, they just took down the last of the helicopter hangars at Mineral Wells. He goes, you might want to go over there next week and see if you can buy one. And he goes, they took down 6 of them. And I go, next week I'm going over there now. So I go over and I'm going to buy all 6 of them. And show up, and they only had one left. $3,000. So 4 of them were gone, 2 were on the ground, and I go, I want to buy the other one too. And he goes, well, the guy hasn't picked it up yet or paid me. If he doesn't, I'll let you have it. So I get this hangar and I transport it here, and a month later he calls and goes, that guy never showed back up, you still want the other hangar? And I go, yeah.
Yes, I do.
And so my other north hangar up there, these 2 hangars are old Fort Walters helicopter hangars that I repurposed. And I'm telling you that because we're going to a World War II hangar that I picked up off the ground and repurposed it back into a full hangar. And the odd story on that one is, you know Glacier Girl?
Yeah, it was a bomber, wasn't it?
P-38 that they got out of the Iceland Green.
That's right, yeah.
Right, the original guy that was doing that found it magnetically, and before they actually punched the hole in, and he died. He bought this hangar to put the airplane in because they thought they were going to pull a full up airplane out of the ice. So he went and found this domed World War II hangar and was going to build it to put the P-38 in, and then he died. Well, the new people that took over said, we don't want the hangar, and it just sat out in Memphis, Tennessee for years, and I went out and got it and brought it out here.
What are the logistics behind, because of course you're taking it in pieces and slabs, but how many semi-trucks is that?
You want to know, weirdly enough, you're not going to believe this. Now, I didn't take the verticals because I could do them here. All I took were the trusses, one truck.
Okay, if it's just the trusses, that makes more sense.
Right.
So you did all new sheet metal and the verticals.
Absolutely. I get a phone call, and I thought it might be the simulator people. I was going to a sim, and I answer it because it was the Memphis area code. And I go, hello? The guy goes, hey, are you Charles Cook? And I go, yeah.
It depends.
And he goes, do you own a small airport in Texas? And I go, yeah. And my heart just stops because I'm going, what is going on? Yeah. And he goes, do you want a hangar? And I go, sure. And he goes, okay. And that used to be what we called the corporate hangar. The corporate airplanes were in it. He goes, we're taking it. He goes, do you want the old corporate hangar? And I go, sure. And he goes, it has to be off here in 3 weeks. Okay. And I go, well, I can't do that. I don't have the equipment to take that hangar down. And he goes, oh, it's already down. We're expanding the ramp. Can you come get it? And I go, absolutely. So I hired the same truck driver.
We got another one, John.
Yeah, went out there and picked up that hangar. And so I've got the original hangar that FedEx started in on Memphis. Yep. So just to walk you through, the most notable airplane in here for me is that red one. And remember I told you it would be hard to pull one out?
Sure.
We have this Super Cub, this and this jammed in here right now, so.
What in the world? I've got so many questions. Okay, let's just one at a time here. One at a time, because I've got so many questions. There's so many airplanes in here that...
Well, we'll start right
Okay.
here. This is a WACO Taperwing, which is a very special airplane. WACO at the time was building Straightwings, and the factory manager, a guy named Freddy Lund, came up with, they actually don't get the credit, the early aviators don't get the credit on the engineering they knew. What they didn't have was the materials to carry out what they knew would work. And so they knew there was a lot of loss at the tips on a parallel wing, right? You know, boom and then slab end, right? And if you look, when we go over there, that's what a straight wing has. And so what they knew is the lift, what you wanted was a symmetrical lift distribution, and you do it with a tapered wing. So he came up with a tapered wing. And the other thing that he did is that's an undercamber wing. If you know what that is, the airfoil is arced on the bottom upward like the top is. The bottom kind of parallels the top. Makes a very high lift wing, but a very high drag wing also. So what they went with here was a semi-symmetric wing. So this is your first step into symmetrical airfoils, and it's a semi-symmetric.
Oh yeah, you can see, yeah, it has the,
Right.
it goes down a little bit. It's not flat like you would on a traditional.
That's right. And in 1927, 28, that was voodoo. And the managers, the owners of WACO said, no more of that. You built it, we're not producing that, we're not selling them. And they only built two of them, and that was actually the prior factory manager. Well, they got Freddy Lund to come in and manage the company, and the way you sell something in aviation is tell the pilots you can't have that, it's too high performance. And so they were inundated with people wanting taper wings because you couldn't get a taper wing.
Makes sense.
Right. And so Freddy Lund said, we're going to actually, if I'm going to manage the factory, we're going to make taper wings. This was one of his personal airplanes. He only had 3. And the highest trophy, the trophy a lot of people do not know about in aerobatics, is actually the Freddy Lund trophy. It was named after him. And he was a big early aerobatic pilot. And he got killed in a taper wing. Another airplane clipped the tail off and killed him. So one of his taper wings he crashed in, but this was actually the his third taper wing right here. And the amazing part of that story is this. This was my instructor's airplane. When I was a kid, I told you over there with the Great Lakes, he had a Champ in this taper wing. So he soloed me in the Champ, and that's why he had no issue with me getting in a biplane, is he was flying this stuff. Well, I flew the Great Lakes and became familiar with it. In other words, didn't touch this. And this only had, at the time, one set of controls in it. There was no controls in the front seat. There are now, but there were none in the front. And so one day he pushed this out and he goes, Charles, you're ready to fly this. And the epiphany on that was, I remember crawling into the airplane and going, this is his prized possession. By him allowing me to fly it. And I knew the history on it and all that. That is the most crowning achievement, I think, in my aviation life, because he said, you're complete, you can fly this. And this was when I was 16. Now, again, I had 200 hours in sailplanes, and at that time I had about 50 hours in powered planes. But I got in this airplane when I was 16 and began flying it with no checkout. In other words, just one set of controls, you know what you're doing, and go. And Gordon lived about another 7, 8 years after that. And I would fly this airplane, and for lack of a better way to put it, if anyone knows what this means, this was kind of the rosebud sled for me, was this airplane. This was one of the most fun, thrilling, fascinating times of my life, was when all this was going on. And when he died, it disappeared, and I never saw the airplane again. And I bought the Straightwing, because I go, I'll never get my hands on a Taperwing, so I bought this Straightwing. And at one of the fly-ins I had here, a guy walked up to me and he goes, you know, we're all wondering why you bought the Straightwing. And I go, well, you know, Gordon had the Taperwing and I wanted that. And he goes, yeah, they're waiting on you to call them. They want you to buy it. And I go, are you kidding me? So he gives me the number, and I call them, and sure enough, they go, yeah, Charles, we know all about you. In other words, through mutual friends. And we're going to sell the airplane, but we were hoping you would call us before we put it on the market. And I go, are you kidding? We're not even discussing it. I want the airplane. And so this is really the pinnacle airplane for me, because again, I'm reliving my childhood, but it's the most fun, interesting thing I did.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So now, was this the Taperwing and the lift aerobatic? I assume this is there was aerobatics.
First civilian airplane to do an outside loop.
Whoa, that's the negative side where you go like this, where it all
Correct.
wants to fly out.
Correct.
Wow.
Yep. So these, if I am not mistaken, you might want to check this, but these did not get certified with a G limit like a modern aerobatic airplane, and they did not have a red line on them. They've since put some on them, but this was really the first fully capable, you're not going to pull the wing off airplane made.
Yeah, and this still flies.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And this is the other Wright 760. So as you see, the
Exhaust is on the front of this one.
yeah, the front exhaust. So the exhaust valve comes out into a collector ring, and the collector ring then exits out the side here.
And it's fascinating to look at the design, because as the exhaust is pushed out, it creates a vacuum or airflow to it that come out this way, so it goes around.
Yep.
And it's the same way that the propeller is spinning too.
Yep.
Which that's wow.
So the engine on the CRG has a speed ring on it, but dimensionally it's that engine.
That is just fascinating.
Yeah.
And these are the wings to the Cub here.
This is a friend of mine from Belgium who has moved over here, and they just literally last week shipped this airplane from Belgium. And this is a very odd airplane. This is a P-18C. So it's a Super Cub, but it's 95 horsepower, no flaps, and is closer to my PA-11, the gray airplane, than a true Super Cub like we think.
Interesting.
Yep. And there were 150 of these given to Belgium after the war. Piper built them to rebuild the Belgium Air Force. And this is one of those airplanes.
Wow.
Yep. Wow. And another odd thing, I saw this and I go, what is that? So I don't know of...
The can right there.
Yeah, I don't know of other Cubs where it's so visible. It's probably in them, but behind it, that is the header tank. Yeah.
Well, I guess it just is more of a collection where
Yeah.
it comes together.
Yep.
A balance tank, really, I guess.
That would probably be what you call it. They call it a header tank, but
Yeah.
there it is. And I personally have not seen that out in the open. on
Yeah,
a
I've
Cub.
never seen that either.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So where?
All right.
Which
so,
clockwise
yeah,
here?
we'll go right here. So this is the Straightwing WACO.
So essentially the same airplane, but with a different wing on it. Yeah, you can. Oh yeah, look. And this wing actually curves under like that.
Correct. This is called an undercamber, and this is a fairly mild one. I've seen them much deeper, but that is not a flat bottom wing like on a Cub, and it's not a semi-symmetric, which is the top curves and there's a lesser curve on the bottom, and a true symmetric would be they're equal. This is an undercamber, and what that does, this is it's like a modern jetliner. When you come in, the front goes out, the back, and you end up with a giant curved wing, right? Very high lift, but the other side of that, very high drag also. So there's a penalty for the amount of lift this produces.
And how long, oh, you just told the story, you bought this right before.
I bought this right before that, which was 5 years ago, because I didn't think I'd get a Taperwing, and I go, well, I'll just get a Straightwing and fly it. And then I get that, and I'm like, oh, man, I didn't need this. But this is such a kick to fly. It's really quite interesting. And this one there were 2 gear configurations on them. This is a different engine. So with WACO, you could get, that's a Continental engine.
Oh, yeah.
But with WACO, you could get several engines, 2 style of gear. So this has a different engine and gear on it, but fuselage, same as the Taperwing over there. In other words, this airplane could be converted to a Taperwing if you had the want to do it.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
And I couldn't help but to see the flying circus.
All right, the flying circus.
Flying circus.
So the flying circus, so this is a 1929 new standard. The word new is the clue. There was a thing called a standard. And a standard biplane was the complement to what was a Curtiss Jenny. And it was considered the better airplane. It was a little more modern than a Curtiss Jenny. So World War I ends and they surplus all the Jennies and all the standards. Somebody makes the discovery, and those were wood-framed fuselages. Somebody discovers if you cut one of the cross members out of the fuselage, you can cram 4 people in it and give rides.
Would you love to have been the person that discovered that? You know what? If we just chop this little bit that you don't need out of here.
Right. And the Gates Air Circus and all this, everybody jumps on it. And I forget the figure, but it's around 400 or 500 of those things were converted to ride hoppers. So there's where your true barnstorming started. And if you've ever seen the movie The Great Waldo Pepper, they were very upset at the CAA, which was the forerunner of the FAA. Well, what got them upset, what was really going on, they wanted to regulate everything. And when they found out they had cut a cross member out and were flying around 4 people, that's what they were after, not the pilots. They were after shutting down those standards. Well, the standards had started a huge cottage industry of giving rides. And essentially what happened is the CAA grounded all the Jennies and standards and said, no more of this, no more wood frame fuselages. Well, panic. We were making tremendous amount of money. So they went to Charles Daly, who designed the standard, and said, look, we've got to have a certified ride hopping airplane that carries 4 people with no wood in it. Hence the new standard.
Oh, so it's a metal fuselage inside.
Did you see the fuselage in my office?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's aluminum. It's aluminum.
Interesting.
Yep, and it's built like a wood fuselage. There's a lot of cross bracing.
I did notice in L metal.
It's crazy to look at. There's cross brace wires in it and all that. So it's aluminum fuselage that's built like a wood fuselage. And the oddity of that is tremendously strong. It's one of the strongest fuselages made of that era. And this is what it was put in. So if you look, that's a step on the side of the airplane.
Yeah, you can tell it's got a handhold there where it tells you. And
Right. And the other side is exactly the same, because the idea was you load it on one side and unload it on the other, and it was just put the people through quick as you can. So You got in the Cessna AW, hop in this because this will blow your mind.
And
too.
the wings are huge.
Well,
Because the bottom wing stops here, which is the normal width, and then it goes another 6 feet or something on top.
well, just while we're here, the oddity of this airplane and the bird over there, the wing panels on the WACOs are dimensionally the same. This is called a sesquiplane. Very interesting idea. The top wing and the bottom wing are identical, but this one's 50% the size. And you set it at 2 degrees more pitch.
The bottom one? Mm-hmm.
So when you're flying, and I'm talking benignly, if you go to stall, the bottom wing stalls, the top one doesn't. And when the bottom wing stalls, it lowers. And so you decrease the pitch on the top wing, so it's semi-stall proof.
Yeah,
Stall
makes
proofing.
sense.
Right.
So, because you're generating quite a bit of lift off of this, and when this one stalls, the weight, and you notice it's sitting further back as well.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hop up there.
All right, hand hold.
Yep.
Boy, that's, okay. This is huge up here.
That's what I'm telling you.
Holy crap.
4 people.
I thought it was 4 people total. No, it's 4 people just up here. Here, it's like, come on up, Silas, here. Step there, down there. I'm gonna go all the way to the front of this.
Now you're ducking
ride.
down, stand up straight.
Oh yeah, look at that. 6 foot tall, I'm standing straight up right here. This really is designed just to give rides. Wow. Keep tips greatly. Okay, this is pretty stinking cool. So do they still use these for giving rides at places, or is this still a thing?
Yeah, there's a few people still running these, and the oddity of it, this airplane still, to this day, from the late 20s to now, is one of the few airplanes that is capable of making about $1,000 an hour.
Gosh.
Yeah. So it's a very desirable airplane, very unknown airplane, and you can fly in one at Mount Pleasant, Texas. My friend Kelly Mahon has one out there at the Mid-America Air Museum, and they give rides on Saturdays.
Wow. Okay, this is pretty neat.
Is that crazy?
It's huge up here.
Yeah.
This is bigger than most normal 4-seat airplanes.
Yeah.
And a lot more headroom.
Yeah. And it's a 5-seater. It's just the pilot has to sit in the back.
Yeah. Oh, I did it backwards again.
That's all right. And the other weird thing, and so the other thing I'll tell you about this airplane, this was the end of an era right here. It's kind of funny because at one time, WACO were half of the airplanes flying in the United States were WACOs. This was the end of the 20s era, and this airplane flies like a 20s airplane. Huge rudder. It's like flying a submarine.
It's like flying a submarine?
Yeah, it doesn't pitch a whole lot. You change the trim, the attitude doesn't change, and you go down. And when you want to go up, you retrim, the pitch doesn't change and it goes up. So it's very submarine feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look here, very large rudder, very small ailerons. So the coordination you use in your airplane.
I mean, it's pretty good size for the,
It is,
but small for the airplane.
The throw on them's only that much.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the thing is, the coordination in your airplane does not work in this one. And that doesn't mean you can't fly it. I'm just saying, you're gonna go, man, I'm not coordinated. The coordination is different because this is a rudder airplane. And I don't mean use a rudder, I mean use a rudder and then chase it with the aileron. And so it flies like a 20s machine does. These, even though they're biplanes, this is the WACO over here, fly like a modern airplane. In other words, the the coordination and the control feel is modern airplane. This is not. This is a throwback to the earlier aviators. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay,
And
then
that's also another Wright 760 up there.
okay. Oh yeah, the same as
Yeah.
as those over there. Okay.
Right. The Wright was a very dependable engine.
Makes sense. Now I've got to ask, the yellow weird-looking airplane in the middle. It caught my eye when we first walked in, and it's just the oddest thing I've ever seen. It looks like, what are the bulldogs that have the chin that comes out? It's like, if you come here like this, it's just like a British bulldog. No, the dogs with the underbite.
It's so ugly, it's pretty.
It is. Reminds me of when you would draw an airplane as a cartoon.
And it hit a wall.
Yeah.
And the nose gets.
Okay, this is the same era as these other late 20s airplanes. With the Epiphany, these are serious moneyed pilots. In other words, WACO aimed at a moneyed pilot. You were a sport pilot, sportsman. Aeronca goes, there's got to be something for the little guy. The problem is everything's a big radial engine, big biplane. What can we do to address that? This is a C3. There was a C1 and C2, which were just stepping stones. In other words, the lineage is, you'd almost have to be told it's a 1 or a 2. So this is a 3. So they come up with the idea, we'll make the airplane as small as possible, and we'll put a little engine on it. Problem, no little engines. So if you'll see right here, Aeronca designed their own engine for this airplane.
Oh, wow.
And it's a 2-cylinder. So it's a 2-cylinder, 36 horsepower engine. And because it's a 2-cylinder, the stroke between it is that.
Because it's.
Yeah, right, you don't have the other 2 cylinders, right? So 36 horsepower. So now we're starting to get into the rat nest of design problems. 36 horsepower, we can't have a lot of drag, so we'll make a little gear on it. Well, that means we'll set the nose up high. All right, well, we still haven't totally addressed it. We need a long wing. So this is a long wing.
Oh yeah, this wing is really long.
Yeah, long wing, and I'll short gear, 2 people, and this is the most easy to fly airplane I've ever been in. It's easy to land. There's no trim because it doesn't go fast. So they were able to set the stabilizer.
Doesn't go fast.
Right. So they just go, we only need 1 position, and you never have control pressure in it because the speed range is not great enough.
So what is the speed? What, you take off, you land, and you cruise?
65.
Okay.
Yeah.
So essentially the first ultralight.
Pretty much.
Basically.
But I'm going to show you the oddity of this airplane other than everything else there. This is built like a biplane, okay? Okay. So they outlawed this. They said they won't take them anymore, but back then a few airplanes were made like this. That's called a king post, okay? And the king post is like the end strut on the biplane. If you look, the end strut is leaned over. Yeah. On the C3, it's vertical. But if you look at the end strut, the flying wire is attached and drops down to the wing, which is what this does. Yeah. Then, right, the upper wing, it comes from the top of the wing down to the fuselage, which is here.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of a mid-wing biplane.
That makes sense. So you have your 2, tension wires.
Yeah. So you have your flying wires and your landing wires, which is exactly what a biplane has.
Okay.
Right.
That is just.
So
that's tiny.
We've been getting in interesting stuff. Come over here.
And Cincinnati, I learned how to pronounce that correctly because they make this propeller right there in Plant City where I'm at.
Oh, no way.
And that's where Cincinnati is, all their wooden propellers. Yep. And we helped and watched a guy do all the rivets and.
Well, if I can say something about that real quickly, Cinchnik, thank you for still producing these. It's a lost art and they are a thing of beauty. And I am fascinated no matter what airplane I see them on, and thank you for staying in business.
Yeah, and they are just, and that's, in my opinion, the most beautiful prop is the wooden prop with the brass leading edge on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just tell you, that is, you want to see hand craftsmanship still done today that goes all the way to the early days.
Carve them by hand, they lay them in, I mean, it's.
There it is. There is nothing more beautiful. So we need to support these aviation companies. There's one I'm wholly behind. I just love their work.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so yeah,
right.
you were saying.
So hop in, Jimmy. I'm not even going to help you on this one. Figure it out.
Like get in the airplane?
Get in the airplane.
You gotta be kidding. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. All right, step one. Oh, good Lord. Okay, step, and then there. And then you just kind of fold yourself in half and get a run and go at it or something. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, without stepping on anything. Okay. Hold on. I gotta figure out how to get this. I don't know how the second, hang on. All right, I'm in. Now the second person, I don't know how they're gonna do it. You'd have to be married to get in this as a second person, that's all I'm saying. And then, oh yeah, your instruments, you gotta duck to kind of see them. Your first airbag right here, in case you go down, you got a pillow to bang your head on. Wow, yeah, this is cozy. Here, wait, see, is that? Uh-oh, how do I? Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is quite cozy in here. Silas, I think you and I are about the only size people that would be able to fit in here at the same time. Wow. Yeah, those wings are really big.
Yeah.
One stick. Okay, now getting out. Really the reason you wanted to see me get out of this thing. That's what it was. All right, I guess. It's a good thing I'm bendy and the ground is pretty close and I got long legs. Oh. Uh-oh, hang on, my foot's stuck. There we go. Yeah, without. Okay. That, ow. About hit myself in the face with my own chin, my own knee. Okay. That was different.
That should be the thumbnail. Like you stuck over there.
Like,
It's fun.
Man, oh, look at this. Look at this.
Let me pull this out of here.
It's bleeding horsepower right now. That's what's happening. And we know that it's got oil because it's got oil. A visual.
So this is a 1929 Curtiss Robin. And if you notice, there's not many Curtiss airplanes still flying. I would probably say the most numerous, I'm just taking a guess here, is Curtiss P-40 is probably the biggest remnant of Curtiss.
Like the P-40 World War II fighter plane?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
And very few of these left. And we looked at the Cessna AW, dimensionally same size airplane. These were 165 horsepower instead of 125. This has a Continental 220. That's the conversion everybody puts on them because it had a Curtiss engine you can't keep running anymore. So high pressure tires, a lot of struts.
Yeah, there's just, things are everywhere.
Designed like a biplane, oddly enough. So here's your two spars. Here would be your compression rib that the struts would go to, and there's a shrunken strut in between the wing. Here's your cross bracing, and then it goes out and holds that. So again, archaic in what they were doing. They were still stepping towards a monoplane, but weren't quite there in what we consider a true monoplane. And the early one of these actually had airfoils on the struts, so it had a stub wing on here. But they found that they really did nothing, so then it reduced down to just the bare struts. So stepping stone airplane. The notorious story on one of these, wrong way Corrigan.
Oh, we were at the museum where they have his airplane.
Yep.
Wait, so this is what that was?
Yes.
Okay, so that, yeah, he told us that story, and
Okay,
you know, he
wrong way-
accidentally went the wrong way.
Wrong way Corrigan wanted to fly across the Atlantic. Everybody said no. So he said, well, I'm going to fly home to California, fueled it up, and accidentally flew the reciprocal course.
Yeah.
And crossed the Atlantic.
Whoops.
Right. So I have one airplane I can cross the Atlantic in.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Now, and you fly this, or this one still flies?
Very, very much.
Oh, wow.
So the crazy story on this is when I was 16, I flew the Great Lakes up to Tahlequah, Oklahoma to the biplane fly-in. They don't have it anymore, National Biplane Fly-In. And if you go to fly-ins, they give away trophies. Nicest airplane, longest distance flown. I got youngest pilot. And I walked up there and somebody in the audience yelled, he doesn't get the youngest pilot unless he flew a biplane to the biplane fly-in. And they go, son, what'd you fly? And I go, Great Lakes. Boy, everybody cheers. They're very excited about it. And I walk down with the trophy, and a guy walks up to me and he goes, hey, you want to fly my Curtiss Robin? And there was a Curtiss Robin at the fly-in, and I go, yeah. Well, the next morning, because the ceremony's in the Saturday evening, the next morning he wasn't out there, or I didn't see him, so I got in my Great Lakes and flew home back to Texas. And another kid was with me in his airplane, and we were putting the airplanes in the hangar, and we heard a radial engine coming. And we looked, and it was the Curtiss Robin, and he lived in South Texas, and he had a twin Baron that he was carrying his camping supply with another guy flying it. So the Curtiss Robin comes in, the twin Baron comes in behind it, never shuts the engines off, and the guy gets out of the Robin and he goes, y'all have a place to keep the airplane for a month? And we go, yeah. And he goes, fly it all you want. Turns and walks and gets in the Baron and flies off. And the part that makes me laugh, this is a true story. The part that makes me laugh is the insurance won't let me. Yeah. Me and the other kid were both on student certificates.
We're outside of the statutes of limitations.
Yeah, the 80s were so different than now. And so he leaves this Robin with us for a month. And the other oddity of that is, it wasn't an oddity. Airplanes of that era were this way. It only had controls in the front seat. Mm-hmm. So again, we climbed in it and started flying it with no one going with us. And we had a Robin for a month. And at the end of the month, he flew up there, got his Robin, and flew home. So weird adventure that just stuck with me. And I've always wanted a Robin since then, but never really been serious about it. And a couple years ago, I saw this one for sale, and I went, you know what, that was so fun, and I have such a good memory of what went on during that. I'm gonna go get the Robin, so I ended up with this Robin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you want to see, and I'm putting you in the stuff that's very interesting. Yes. If you want to see another interesting thing, climb up in this at what this era pilot looked at.
Okay.
That clips in.
Okay, here we go. This one does have a clip on it. Oh, and you're sitting tandem in this one.
Well, now this is a 3-seater, one up front and 2 in the back. This was kind of a corporate.
Whoa!
This was a corporate type airplane. This was basically a King Air of the late 20s. This was made to haul around 2 executives.
Okay, step right here, I'm
Correct.
assuming. All right. Oh, this is a lot easier to get in than that Aeronca thing. Wow. Okay, this is not bad. This is roomy.
Yep. There's no forward vision.
Yeah, you get.
That's as good as it gets.
That's not. This is pretty nice, honestly.
If you fly tailwheel airplanes, those windows are exactly where you look. In other words, if I was to tell you, hey, I want to show you how to fly a tailwheel airplane, this is the perfect airplane to put you in and go, this is where your eyes need to be.
Yeah, yeah. This is wonderful.
Yep.
They have the Lindbergh view, I think is what they call it, or something.
Yep.
Because he didn't have a front window on the whole thing. He could only see out of the side in a telescope.
And this airplane, that front windshield, is more just a light source. Even when you're flying it,
It's more of a light source.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is really nice in here. Wow. Yeah. All right. And getting out. Shoot, man, this thing is.
Much more.
That's a lot easier to get in and out of. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Man,
But-
look, yeah, look at the size of the tires on this thing.
Yep.
Wow.
And one of the most very easy airplane to fly, very delightful, very, very good control harmony, the whole thing, unlike the new standard, like I said, 20s era, that's the end of the 20s era. This one, I'm gonna put modern control harmony and feel. And one of the most fun flying airplanes I have is this thing right here.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Yep.
fantastic.
All right, so
All right, side swatch that and your feet.
yeah. This is my friend's airplane. He's storing it here. But do you know what this is? This is a Bücker Jungmann. So this is a Swiss-built one. They were also built in Spain. But the origin of them is pre-war Germany. And we all know what a Stearman is, right? That is what essentially our World War II Air Force learned in. They used several airplanes, but the Stearman was the big one. Mm-hmm. This was the German Stearman right here. This is what the Luftwaffe pilots learned to fly in, were these Bückers. And their second life, these are like Stradivarius violins. I was going to say guitar because I'm from Texas.
That's right. That's right. It's a Martin guitar.
Yeah, it's a Stradivarius guitar.
Yeah.
But these are like Stradivarius violins. Very hard to put your hand on. The control feel on them is phenomenal. I don't think there's any airplane that tops a Bücker. Wow. Yep. And very interesting airplane. You can take a look in there. The very famous 30s aerobatic pilots from overseas, this is what they flew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks just like a warbird, the way all the controls are and the throttles and
yep.
radios and all that. It's
air balanced, right? So these elevators are air balanced. So it takes an air load to unload them, but the ailerons move the stick and feel the control pressure. And this is how it feels in the air.
oh my Lord, you could just breathe on that side over there.
Yep.
And you have ailerons on both wings, so that is
Right.
for
And
real. This is one finger. That is some of the lightest controls I have. That's almost just pleasant to do that.
I know. And the thing is,
Wow.
you can see here, the way they did it is they pulled the hinge line back, and I'll move it and you can see this.
Oh yeah, because the hinges are not here on
Correct.
the pivot, they're moved back here.
So see how that puts
yeah.
air balance on it? So the thing is, when that has an air load, the elevators become as light as those ailerons.
Wow, yeah, because there you can feel it, the weight on it.
Yep.
And through here, it almost acts like a, well, not a stall strip, but
Well, it's air balance, like on a Cub. You know, you have the little fin at the front. Right. Yeah.
wow. That is, all right, that is.
So very rare airplane, very hard to get, and the guys that get them never turn loose of them. I mean,
I can see why.
Yeah.
And this one's for sale on Airspace Auction. No, I'm just kidding.
I will just tell you, I already have too many airplanes, and I want one more, and it's a Bücker.
There you go. There you go. Well, see, you've got the best of everything, so you have it here, but you didn't have to pay for it.
Right.
Or maintain it.
So I'll tell you the quick story on this. When I was 16, I'm flying the Great Lakes, and this is Jeff Rowland, my friend that helps me at Aeroverse, lands in his Bücker, and he's a couple years older than me. And he goes, Gordon, I heard you got a kid over here flying a Great Lakes. And he goes, yeah. And he goes, they want to fly my Bücker? And Gordon goes, yeah. And I was doing something out there, and he comes and gets me, and he goes, hey, this guy's going to let you fly his Bücker. And that was the first Bücker flight I ever flew, was in this airplane when I was 16.
This exact airplane?
This one.
Oh my goodness.
Because he's had this longer than I've had my Great Lakes.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yep. And so I flew this airplane when I was 16, this one. And, you know, it's just weird how life works out. And we're all still friends and doing things together.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yep.
Hey, look, and another Cincinnati.
Yep.
Hey-oh. Shout out, hey, another one right there. We just got Cincinnati everywhere. So what is the bright orange bird here? What do we got?
This, you kind of nailed it without knowing it. This is a bird, CK.
Oh, it's actually called a bird.
It is actually called a bird. And the famous story on these, this is what Charles Lindbergh bought his wife to learn to fly in, was a bird. So again, high pressure tires, got a Kenner engine, which is a 5-cylinder. So if you ever listen to a radial, this has a different cadence with the 5 cylinders and the open pipes because...
Oh yeah, the exhaust, so that's not collected.
Right. And
also, it just pop, 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 comes out everywhere. Right. I bet the startup on this thing is fantastic.
He asked him if somebody gave him the bird.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the WACO with the collector ring is very monotone. This is not. Boy, it sounds like a gun shooting off in every direction. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah. And so I had an airplane called a monocoupe, and I had 2 others that were project monocoupes. My friend wanted them. We ended up making a trade for this airplane. And a bird is a relatively rare airplane. Nothing I really had a deep desire to have, but era biplane. So we trade for it, and I always heard they were very wonderful flying airplanes, and you know, just almost esoteric. I trade for it without flying one or seeing it, and I go up and get it, and it's a late 20s airplane. In other words, control coordination is not there.
So the other one, lots of rudder, and you swing the tail to bring the rest of the airplane around?
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy it, but it's not the Bücker-esque flying airplane that in literature it makes it sound like. So I had to go get this in North Dakota, and here's where we're going with the interesting story. I had to go get this airplane in North Dakota. So I get up there, wow, here it is. Takes me 3.5 days to fly it home because there were winds, and there was about 30-mile-an-hour winds on the nose, so I'm doing about 50 over the ground.
You're watching cars pass you.
I could literally look at take off, climb to about 3,000 feet, and nearly see where I was going to land because it only had about 120, 150 mile range in that wind. So I fight this thing all the way home, finally get it home, and I am real happy with it. I like the airplane. And so I put a picture up on Facebook. Look at this bird biplane that I now have. And that night, I get a message from a guy, and he goes, "I'm really glad you have that airplane. Do you know the history?" No. That bird is the one that was used in Chicago to tow the banners over the Chicago Cubs back in the 30s.
Wow.
And I go, "Wow, that's cool. That is cool." And he goes, "Yeah." And my uncle his ashes are in the front stick.
That's cool, a little weird.
Yeah. And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, when he was cremated, he wanted to be put in the front stick of the airplane." And so I go, this is some nut giving me a hard time. And I go, "Whatever."
Please tell me you pulled
Right.
the handle off.
Right. So the next day I go out and I go, I didn't really look at the front stick that much. And I go look, and his uncle's ashes are in.
Hey, Uncle Tom.
Yeah, so I don't know, just one of those odd things happens.
Oh, that is pretty. But this is the airplane that actually towed the banners over the Chicago Cubs games.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
In the 30s.
In the 30s, and this is a sesquiplane, 50% lower wing, 100% top, and high lift wing. And the oddity of that is you see the size of this airplane compared to the new Standard in the back. That airplane carries 3 people in the front cockpit.
Seriously?
Yes. So that carries 4, this carries 3. So these were also used as ride hoppers. Now this one is not cut for the third person because it was an option, but the front hull was cut a hair forward and there was a jump seat. It would fold down, and so 2 and then 1. Mm-hmm. And the oddity of both these airplanes, fully loaded or fully empty, they fly exactly the same. You do not feel the weight in the airplane.
Wow.
Yep.
That is so neat.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us over, sharing this. I mean, you have the most interesting collection of airplanes, and what I love is they all have the stories and they still fly.
Yeah.
They're not just sitting here collecting dust and not doing anything, but they still fly. So thank you, and I'm sure I speak for everyone watching that loves aviation like we do. Thank you for keeping these flying.
Well, thank you for coming out. I really have enjoyed it.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's see what else is out there. If you have or know of somebody else that's a big aviation nut, has a bunch of airplanes that we can go check out, hit me up. My email address down the bottom, therealjimmysworld@gmail.com. I will see you later.
So here, this is the CRG wings to that fuselage. So we're recovering them right now, and that's nearly 100-year-old wing, because that's a 27 airplane and we're in 24. So.
And this is the original wood from it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then this has got a blanket on it right now, but you can punch it. This is one of the panels covered, and this is the center section. So we've got to do 3 more of these panels and paint them, and this airplane will be ready to assemble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at the grain.
Oh yeah.
And real tightly together.
Yeah, that's that spruce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you look, these are hand-tied drag wires, which you don't see anymore. I mean, to build one of these, you had to have a cabinet shop and a blacksmith. And, that was the technology they were using back then.
Craftsmanship.
It really was.
True craftsman.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's almost a lost art, really.
I agree.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to show you that before you left.
Oh yeah, it would be neat to see one of these done in clear acrylic, or not acrylic, but clear fabric of some sort, so you can just see the
Do
inside.
you know when I was a kid going to Oshkosh, someone had a cabin WACO done in that clear RC airplane stuff, and it was crazy looking because you could see 100% of the airframe, and
Flying, it would look like you're flying on a wood.
yeah, and this wing, yeah, I know, and this wing is just like that wing, yet that looks stronger. When this gets fabric on it, everyone's okay. When they walk over and see it like this, it's like, man, I wouldn't fly in that.
Yeah, I know. But this is really strong. I mean, you look, it's the same technology they use to build bridges.
Yep.
It's yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. They were very, very smart back then, but they didn't have the materials we have now. That was the only difference. So anyway, that's all I got.
That's all. That's it.
That's it.
Is that all?
That's all.